Raluca. Raluca. Bună dimineața! Bine ne regăsim în a treia zi a Digital Innovation Summit Bucharest. Astăzi o zi cu totul și cu totul deosebită, Cyber Diplomacy. Cu asta începem. Avem o deschidere foarte scurtă. Ni s-a alăturat domnul ministru Dimian, proaspătul ministru, domnul Dimian, Educație și Cercetare, domnul Bogdan Ivan, vechiul nostru prieten al dispului, și de la Bruxelles, Victor Negrescu, va avea o scurtă alocuțiune, după care vom intra în plin în panelurile pe care le avem, așa că nu mai rămâne decât să vă mulțumesc că ați venit și astăzi aici. Sper să considerați cel puțin la fel de interesante discuțiile de astăzi ca cele din zilele trecute, așa că o să-l invit cu un cuvânt de deschidere pe domnul ministru Dimian. Vă rog. Și îi mulțumesc că a venit. Ne cunoaștem din perioada când era doar rector.
Doar.
Acum este și ministru și nu-l invidiu. Mulțumim.
Vă mulțumesc, domnule director. Distinși invitați, stimați organizatori, în primul rând vă mulțumesc pentru invitație și vă felicit pentru organizarea acestui eveniment special. Sunt onorat să mă aflu aici și, sigur, să reprezint Ministerul Educației și Cercetării de această dată, dar vin nu doar din poziția de rector, ci și din președinte al Comisiei de Cercetare, Dezvoltare și Inovare pentru IT, Spațiu și Securitate. Deci, sunt familiar cu temele acestei conferințe și cred că este mare nevoie de ele, este mare nevoie de dezbatere în spațiul public, nu doar în spațiul cercetării, ci trebuie să explicăm aceste lucruri societății, importanța lor pentru societate și mai ales pentru viitor, deoarece sunt exact lucrurile care se vor dezvolta accelerat în viitor și trebuie să pregătim un cadru pentru ele, trebuie să pregătim tinerii pentru ele, trebuie să ne pregătim noi, pentru că am constatat că revoluțiile industriale ne afectează fie că ne dorim sau nu acest lucru. Și am să vorbesc un pic despre ceea ce fac în prezent, despre ceea ce fac în aceste zile legat de tematica dumneavoastră. Și în primul rând lucrăm la un proiect de lege pentru digitalizarea cercetării, pentru transferul tehnologic și inovare. Și sigur că societatea așteaptă de la cercetători rezultate care se regăsească în economie. Există în același timp o anumită confuzie între cercetare și inovare. Încerc pe scurt să spun că cercetarea consumă bani, nu produce bani. Toată lumea se așteaptă să producă bani. Nu, cercetarea consumă bani, dar produce cunoaștere. De fapt, ce așteaptă lumea de la noi nu este cercetare, este inovare, adică să luăm cunoașterea de la noi sau de la alții, să o transformăm în bani. Și tocmai acest proiect de lege încearcă să ofere cadrul pentru acest transfer de cunoștințe, transfer tehnologie, pentru inovare, pentru parteneriatele publice-private. Ne aflăm într-un stadiu avansat, am consultat și în weekend specialiști și din străinătate și din țară, încercând să răspundem într-un fel tuturor aspectelor legate atât de mediul cercetării de stat cât și de mediul cercetării din privat. Însă vă rog cu toții să facem acest efort pentru a orienta cercetarea noastră către aplicații și a încerca să inovăm mai mult, pentru că în momentul de față economia și societatea are nevoie. Pe de altă parte și noi, fie că vorbim despre oameni din educație sau din cercetare, sau oameni care facem ambele lucruri, trebuie să înțelegem că mai mulți bani pentru educație și cercetare vin dacă economia produce mai mulți bani mai întâi. Și noi putem contribui la acest aspect. Pe de altă parte, lucrez la un ghid, să spunem, pentru aplicarea inteligenței artificiale în educație și cercetare. Este început înainte de a fi eu prezent în minister, lucrăm în aceste zile la el, nu va fi perfect, puteți să-l criticați, dar e un lucru de la care trebuie să pornim. Și nu trebuie să ne fie frică de inteligența artificială, nu trebuie să interzicem utilizarea ei în educație, cu atât mai puțin în cercetare, dar sigur că trebuie să stabilim anumite limite și nu putem să evaluăm studentul pentru ce a făcut inteligența artificială, însă angajatorul, ulterior, va aștepta ca absolventul nostru să rezolve o problemă. Ca folosi sau nu inteligența artificială pentru rezolvarea problemei, îl interesează mai puțin pe angajator. Pe el interesează să rezolve problema. Drept urmare, și noi, când îi pregătim, da, va trebui să schimbăm cumva lucrurile pentru a evalua activitatea studentului nostru, fie că utilizează, fie că nu utilizează inteligența artificială într-un anumit demers, dar, bineînțeles, că nu înlocuind originalitatea studentului cu rezultatul inteligenței artificiale. Pe de altă parte, utilizarea inteligenței artificiale generative, fie că vorbim de pregătirea lecțiilor, de evaluare, de organizarea profesorului, fie că vorbim de zona cercetării, este necesară. Trebuie să ne adaptăm cu toți, trebuie să învățăm lucruri noi și dumneavoastră de aici știți aceste lucruri. Eu doar vă spun că trebuie să fiți mesagerii mai departe către societate pentru a ne adapta acestei noi provocări reprezentate de, fie că o numim Revoluția 4.0, fie că o numim Revoluția inteligenței artificiale sau a sistemelor cyberfizice. Aici putem dezbate despre modul în care formulăm lucrurile. Ceea ce este clar este că suntem înconjurați de dispozitive inteligente și în momentul de față creativitatea este principala resursă pe care o avem la dispoziție pentru a ne diferenția de mașină. Nu știu pentru cât timp, dar momentan nu avem. Drept urmare, fiind în mediul de cercetare, cred că sunteți interesați ca tinerii să fie cât mai creativi, dar indiferent că ei aleg calea cercetării sau nu, în noua societate ei au nevoie să fie creativi. Drept urmare, și educația trebuie să se adapteze acestui deziderat de a avea, în primul rând, tineri creativi. Și fiecare disciplină pe care o predăm are posibilitatea de a dezvolta creativitatea studenților și a elevilor. Drept urmare, să nu ajungem în celebrul titlu al lui Sir Ken Robinson, care, apropo, a fost solicitat să reformeze educația în Marea Britanie la un moment dat, și dacă vă uitați pe YouTube, principalul lui, să spunem, TED Talks este Do School Skill Creativity, școlile ucid creativitatea. Și putem învăța din această experiență, nu avem pretenția că știm noi ce avem de făcut, dar putem învăța de la alții și aplica. Vă mulțumesc, vă urez mult succes în continuare, dezbateri frumoase și vă asigur că sunt un partener al noastră și nu doar un ministru vermelnic. Vă mulțumesc!
Mulțumim mult, domnului ministru, pentru mesaj, pentru că este aici alături de noi și pentru că a adus în discuție ideea că cercetarea este o investiție de risc. Nu este ceva care vine de la sine și, în final, produce. Din 100 de încercări, dacă ți iese una, înseamnă că ai reușit. Trecem la următorul nostru invitat, Bogdan Ivan, un vechi prieten al DISP-ului și ministrul energiei, mare legătură și cu zona de cyber diplomacy, și cu zona de critical infrastructure protection, și cu zona de digitalizare.
Mulțumesc foarte mult, domnule Vevera, domnule ministru, excelențele voastre, Your Excellencies, dear ambassador, dear friends, stimați cercetători și dragi prieteni. E o bucurie să fiu în această dimineață aici. Vorbeam mai devreme cu domnul director Vevera că acum vreo 3 ani înainte de a ajunge în postura de ministru al digitalizării, am avut ocazia să mă adresez acestei audiențe extrem de importante pentru prezent și mai ales pentru viitor. Și cred foarte mult că anumite lucruri în țara noastră s-au schimbat. Între timp, ceea ce părea un vis, și anume să avem cloud guvernamental, a devenit realitate, cu efort, și efortul a unei echipe extrem de importante din mai multe medii. Și cred că ceea ce ne caracterizează cu adevărat pe fiecare dintre noi și moștenirea noastră sunt faptele. Și discursurile sunt importante, pentru că de la cuvânt, la început a fost cuvântul și de acolo pornesc adevăratele lucruri, dar ceea ce ne caracterizează sunt faptele. Așa că, în momentul de față, vreau să îl felicit pe domnul director Vevera pentru leadership-ul domniei sale, pentru faptul că este unul dintre cei mai importanți vectori și promotori ai transformării digitale ai României și a regiunii. Și chiar merită aplauze pentru acest lucru. De la cloud guvernamental până la AI Factory, cel mai mare proiect pe care îl are regiunea Europei Centrale și de Est, cu care suntem pregătiți să-l începem în cel mai scurt timp, și anume AI Gigafactory, o investiție de peste 5 miliarde de euro. Victor Vevera a stat alături, a gândit, a proiectat și este omul care de multe ori nu se afișează, dar care face o treabă extraordinară. Victor, mulțumesc foarte mult pentru parteneriat și pentru corectitudine și pentru faptul că împreună chiar facem designul viitorului. Nu așteptăm că el să se întâmple. Dar, evident, ca toate aceste lucruri să funcționeze, au nevoie de energie. Și au nevoie de energie în bandă și au nevoie de energie la un preț competitiv și au nevoie de energie care să poată să susțină transformarea viitorului. În acest motiv, dacă ne uităm la cele mai dezvoltate state din lume, și aici iau ca și etalon Statele Unite ale Americii, Israelul, avem o strategie foarte clară. Investim în AI, investim în tehnologie, care este evident că fără de ea, state care astăzi se cred extrem de importante nu vor mai fi la fel de importante în următorii 5 sau 10 ani, și în energie. În energie nucleară, în energie bazată pe gaz, care poate să ne asigure stabilitate pe următorii 30 de ani. Iar România are un potențial extraordinar, rămâne doar ca acest potențial să transpunem și în fapte, pentru că de prea multe ori am auzit potențial, dar nu e suficient. Avem oameni extraordinari care de multe ori pleacă în afara țării pentru că aici nu au suficiente șanse și datorită unor oameni, cum e Victor Vevera, cum e Mihnea Costoi la Universitatea Politehnică, cum sunt alți rectori foarte buni în România, cum e domnul ministru care face o treabă foarte bună la Suceava Universitate, ei au în continuare perspectiva de a rămâne în România. Iar acest lucru depinde foarte mult și de guvern. Pentru că oricât de mult ne-am dorit, că nu e suficient, avem nevoie și de putere executivă. Iar în acest punct de vedere sunt foarte încântat că acum lucrăm la un program de peste 30 de miliarde de dolari. Investiții directe în capacități de producție a energiei electrice, de la reactoare de dimensiuni medii, modulare, pentru care acum o lună de zile avem primul concept pentru care am dat decizia finală de investiții, un SMR, la Doicești, cu tehnologie americană. Suntem primii din Europa care facem acest lucru. Avem deja experiență pe tehnologie americană și canadiană în materie de energie nucleară la Cernavodă. Producem 20% din capacitatea energetică a României acolo și putem să o dublăm. Iar toate aceste lucruri, evident că îmi doresc ca plus valoarea adăugată maximă să fie dusă înspre inteligența artificială și înspre tehnologie. Da, e foarte important să avem mai multă energie, e important să ducem și în ferme, de exemplu, și să avem un preț mai bun cu un leu la carnea de porc sau la steak-ul de vită, dar adevărata plus valoare adăugată este dată de tehnologie. Dacă ne uităm astăzi la top 10 companii din lume, 8 dintre ele sunt de tehnologie și sunt din Statele Unite ale Americii. Ne uităm la 10 cei mai bogați oameni din lume, 8 sunt din Statele Unite și sunt din domeniul tehnologiei. Dacă ne uităm la S&P, din primele 500 de companii, primele 10 companii de acolo totalizează aproape jumătate din toată cotația S&P, iar acele companii sunt de tehnologie. Iar cine nu înțelege că viitorul este al tehnologiei, care poate să fie funcțională doar dacă are curent și are energie, nu înțelege viitorul. Iar această conferință cred că ar trebui să fie un moment în care toți guvernanții să-și deschidă ochii să înțeleagă cât de importantă e energia și tehnologia și cât de important sunteți dumneavoastră, oamenii de geniu pe care are țara asta. Pentru că fără dumneavoastră putem să avem energie nelimitată, putem să avem și tehnologie nelimitată dacă dumneavoastră, oamenii de geniu, nu vă puneți toată priceperea în această direcție, e degeaba. Dar cred că cea mai mare resursă a noastră sunteți dumneavoastră, sunt tinerii și oamenii cu experiență care au ales să rămână în România, care sunt cu sufletul aici și care cred că țara noastră poate să fie o putere economică, cel puțin regională. Pentru că dacă noi investim acum în energie și facem acest lucru și în 3 ani ar trebui să ajungem în etapa în care să nu mai fim importator net de energie, ci exportator net de energie, pentru că producem suficient de mult, să investim masiv în aceste AI Factory, AI Gigafactory, țara noastră poate să fie cea mai importantă țară din regiune. Iar acest lucru poate fi făcut doar împreună. În acest punct de vedere vreau să-l felicit încă o dată pe Victor. Cred foarte mult că etapa următoare pentru România va fi cea de tranziție dinspre consumatori de tehnologie înspre design de tehnologie, cel în care producem în România și exportăm tehnologie în alte state, în parteneriat direct cu prietenii noștri pe care am enumerat mai devreme. Cred foarte mult că România poate să aibă un rol mai activ și la nivel european, în dereglementare, în flexibilizarea unor reguli care ne țin în continuare blocați, în timp ce, îl dau exemplu pe Elon Musk. Eram la Davos acum o lună și vorbea despre modul în care în 2 ani de zile o să avem deja fabrici de inteligență artificială în spațiu, care o să funcționeze 24 din 24, 7 din 7, cu panouri solare, o să aibă sistem de cooling pentru acele fabrici de inteligență artificială, o să le poată transmite datele mai departe care sunt procesate către rețeaua Starlink și după asta înapoi către Pământ. Într-o formă extrem de avansată, în 2 ani. Și noi acum stăm să calculăm cum facem AI Factory. Și atunci mi-am dat seama de ceva extrem de important, că după ce acel proiect Dodge nu a reușit în state, e mai simplu să ajungi pe altă planetă sau pe lună decât să reformezi statul. și cred că e zona în care avem cel mai mare potențial de creștere. Așa că, încă o dată, Victor, mulțumesc mult pentru parteneriatul corect, pentru faptul că aici nu e doar o conferință, ci o conferință care pune bazele viitorului. Cu dumneavoastră împreună, cu prietenii noștri, pentru că văd pe cei mai importanți ambasadori care sunt prietenii noștri, statele pe care reprezintă cei mai buni prieteni pe care îi avem noi ca și popor și cred foarte mult că împreună putem să fim o referință mondială. Liderii de astăzi s-ar putea ca peste câțiva ani să nu mai fie lideri, în schimb țările care astăzi au acea foame de a reuși, cum este România, pot și au toate șansele să fie liderii de mâine. Așa că hai să facem din România un lider, cel puțin în regiune, în tehnologie și energie. Mult succes, Victor! Aveți în mine un partener și așa cum a spus-o foarte frumos domnul ministru Dimian, nu doar un ministru vremenic, ci un partener de cursă lungă. Toate cele bune!
Mulțumim mult domnului ministru Bogdan Ivan pentru cuvintele frumoase și pentru că a adus în discuție fabricile de AI. Vreau să-i mulțumesc încă o dată pentru că este artizanul alături de noi a primei infrastructuri, AI Factory, cea care se construiește, hosting entity este ICI, într-un consorțiu împreună cu Politehnica, cu Universitatea Tehnică din Cluj, cu Consiliul Național al IMM-urilor, Institutul pentru Biotehnologie și alți parteneri, dar este unul din artizanii acestui proiect. Îi mulțumesc, fără sprijinul lui, nu cred că am fi ajuns, nu noi să fim hosting entity sau să avem acest proiect, ci să ajungem să depunem un proiect care să fie viabil, să fie ales în ultimul val al dezvoltării Comisiei Europene, ultimele 6 centre de AI, pentru că, într-adevăr, fără o infrastructură națională de AI, nu cred că putem să ridicăm pretenții la nimic. Și sperăm că Giga Factory, când se va stabili exact despre ce este vorba, să putem să fim alături de acest proiect și să fie tot un proiect de succes pentru România. Mulțumesc, Bogdane, și ca prieten, și ca ministru, și ca partener. Și pentru că tot am adus în discuție AI Factory, următorul nostru invitat de la Bruxelles este Victor Negrescu. Victor Negrescu, un om care tot așa îi datorăm mulțumiri pentru sprijinul pe care ni l-a dat în a implementa zona de AI Factory. Pentru că, chiar dacă suntem la o conferință și este open și transmisă online, trebuie să recunoaștem. Fără un lobby la Comisia Europeană, proiectele mari nu trec. Și lobby-ul este făcut de europarlamentarii români pe care avem acolo. Iar Victor Negrescu a fost unul din europarlamentarii care a luptat mult ca să avem această infrastructură de ROE Factory. Îi mulțumim. Alături de Bogdan ne-am așezat prima dată la masă și am discutat cum ar putea să fie construit acest proiect, așa că îi mulțumim și o să îi dăm, să spunem, legătura pentru mesajul pe care ne l-a trimis de la Bruxelles, pentru că n-a putut să fie astăzi cu noi, este sesiune parlamentară și, într-adevăr, trebuie să fii prezent acolo ca să știi când se fac legile și cum se fac. Mulțumesc mult! Dăm drumul la video cu Victor Negrescu.
Dear friends, dear partners in innovation, the Digital Innovation Summit is not just another discussion about technology, but a real opportunity to call for empowerment. The empowerment to decide whether Romania will simply consume artificial intelligence developed elsewhere or build it here at home. For years, I have argued at European level that Central and Eastern Europe must not remain the digital periphery of the European Union. Because Romania has talent, Romania has engineers, Romania has researchers. What we needed was strategic infrastructure. That is why I fought to bring the AI Factory to Romania. Today, the raw AI Factory, coordinated by ECI Bucharest together with strong academic and industrial partners, is not just an idea. It is a national AI backbone connecting to the European ecosystem of high-performance computing and artificial intelligence. And let me be very clear. An AI factory is not just a data center. It is a factory of solutions. It is where Romanian researchers can train advanced models without leaving the country. It is where startups can access computing power they could never afford alone or elsewhere. It is where SMEs can test AI tools before scaling them. It is where public administration can build smarter, faster, more transparent services. If we design it right, the AI factory will not serve only Bucharest. It will serve Cluj, Iași, Timișoara, Craiova, my hometown of Alba Iulia, and every region that wants to grow through technology. Artificial intelligence is already reshaping economies, labor markets, security and governance. The real question is simple. Will Romania be a producer of AI or only a user of imported systems? Through this initiative, we choose to be a producer. At European level, I have pushed for AI gigafactories, for shared infrastructure, for funding that allows emerging regions to compete fairly. But European funding alone is not enough. We need national ambition. We need partnerships between public authorities, universities, research institutes, and private companies. ECI plays a key coordinating role in this architecture. It ensures that the raw AI factory is not an isolated island, but part of a European network. It ensures interoperability, security, and resilience. And this matters especially in today's context. We are living in an era where technology is dual use. AI can strengthen critical infrastructure, energy system, health services, even space capabilities, but it can also create vulnerabilities. That is why building our own trusted infrastructure is not only an innovation policy, it is a sovereignty policy. Digital sovereignty does not mean isolation. It means capability. It means having the tools, the compute power, and the expertise to protect our interests and compete globally. My commitment is clear. I will continue to fight in Brussels for dedicated investment in AI skills, for simplified access to funding, for fair participation of Romanian companies in European projects. And at home, I will support the expansion of projects linked to the AI factory, like, for instance, building innovation hubs, training programs, startup acceleration, and AI integration in public services. Because infrastructure without people is useless, and talent without infrastructure lives. The raw AI factory gives us the chance to keep talent here, to attract new projects, to move from outsourcing to ownership. As said, this summit is not just another conference. It is a signal that Romania is ready to play in Europe's first league of artificial intelligence. Now it is up to us, policymakers, researchers, entrepreneurs, to turn this infrastructure into impact. Romania can be one of the natural homes of artificial intelligence in Europe. And we have already taken the first decisive step. Thank you so much.
Doamnelor, domnilor, vă urez și eu bun venit la cea de-a treia zi a Digital Innovation Summit Bucharest, powered by ICI București. Pentru început, doresc să vă mulțumesc pentru participare, pentru discuțiile din ultimele zile și în special pentru energia pe care o aduceți acestui eveniment. Numele meu este Raluca Rașca și voi fi gazda dumneavoastră pe parcursul întregii zile. Astăzi începem cea de-a 5-a ediție a International Conference on Cyber Diplomacy, o parte importantă a summitului nostru dedicată dialogului despre cooperare internațională, tehnologie și securitate în lumea digitală. Primul panel de astăzi vom vorbi despre cum pot colabora diplomația, universitățile și cercetarea pentru a folosi tehnologia în mod responsabil și pentru a construi parteneriate internaționale mai puternice. Îl invit în scenă pe Dan Cărbunaru, directorul publicației Calea Europeană. Dan, te rog. Discuția va fi moderată de Dan. Și eu mulțumesc. Poți să îți las microfonul.
Ok. O să am nevoie de el. Mulțumesc foarte mult. Domnule Ministru al Educației și Cercetării, succes în noul noastră mandat. Domnule Ministru al Energiei, ați adus energie și viziune în discursul dumneavoastră. Doamnelor și domnilor ambasadori, distinși reprezentanții ai Corpului Diplomatic acreditat la București, reprezentanții ai Guvernului, ai Parlamentului, doamnelor și domnilor rectori, decani, profesori universitari, reprezentanții ai mediului universitar. Va fi o mare plăcere să moderez acest panel. Potrivit agendei, el era aproape de final, iată că ne apropiem de început. Victor Vevera are acest talent și această capacitate de a face ceea ce acum sute de ani Giordano Bruno imagina în capacitatea oamenilor de a crea legături între ei. Și iată că legăturile pe care Victor Vevera și ICI le creează, generează efecte spectaculoase și din perspectiva temei alese pentru panelul nostru. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning everyone and welcome to the fifth edition of International Conference on Cyber Diplomacy, organized by, under the umbrella of Digital Innovation Summit this year. Over these days here in Bucharest, policymakers, diplomats, researchers and industry leaders are looking at how emerging and disruptive technologies are reshaping our security, economies and societies. This panel adds a very specific layer to the discussion: science, diplomacy, research and international cooperation in dual-use domain, from advanced semiconductors and artificial intelligence to synthetic biology and cyber capabilities. My name is Dan Cărbunaru. I am director of Calea Europeană. This year we celebrate, by working, of course, 20 years of continuous activity. It's going to be my pleasure, as I said, to moderate this conversation. And let me briefly introduce our distinguished panelists. Mrs. Clara Volintiru, State Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Romania. Clara, please join us. Yes, it's up to you. His Excellency Mr. Lior Bandor, Ambassador of the State of Israel to Romania. Your Excellency, please. His Excellency Mr. Tigran Galstian, Ambassador of the Republic of Armenia to Romania. Your Excellency, thank you so much. Her Excellency Mrs. Evangelia Gramatica, Ambassador of the Hellenic Republic of Romania to Romania. Your Excellency, thank you. His Excellency Mr. Hassan Abouyub, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco to Romania. Your Excellency, you are welcome, please. Professor Marian Barbu, Rector of Dunărea de Jos, University of Galați. Thank you. Professor Costel Negricea, Rector of Romanian American University. Okay, I will try once more. Professor Costel Negricea, Rector of Romanian American University. Okay. Professor Steve O'Michael, Rector of Danubius International University. Hello, sir, thank you. Professor Alexandru Bobe, Vice Rector of Ovidius University of Constanța. And Associate Professor Zlatogor Minchev, Institute of ICT, Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. Thank you, Professor, please. Thank you all for joining us this morning. And let me present how it's gonna be the next 45 minutes. We split it in three parts. First, we look at how mandates and responsibilities change in dual-use world for diplomats, science attaches, and academics. Second, we zoom into universities and research partnerships, how we manage sensitive technology transfer and standards. And third, we end with a short lightning round in which everyone will share one concrete priority for the next 3 years. Now let's start with the first round. Mandates and openness security tension. Dual-use technologies make it harder and harder to separate civilian from military, research from security policy. Science diplomacy is no longer just about building bridges, it also has to prevent leaks and misuse. Our first question combines the first two guiding questions proposed by the organizers. How should the mandate of science attaché or an academic representing their university abroad change when the technologies they promote have immediate and profound national defense implications? And how can scientific openness be preserved without undermining security? I will kindly ask each of you around 2 minutes of answer, and I will start with Clara Volintiru, State Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Romania. Madam State Secretary, dear Clara, from the perspective of Romanian Foreign Ministry, how is science diplomacy evolving when dual use is everywhere, from chips to algorithms? What do you expect today from science attachés and academic partners abroad? Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me well? Yes. Thank you so much. I remember 10 years ago when you used to interview me when we launched a big volume on energy policy and critical infrastructures, and it was just the two of us. Now we have such a long panel in between, but the conversations are as timely as ever. And I'm very happy, and I congratulate the conveners and Victor Vevera for this extraordinary concept of linking tech, cyber, and critical infrastructures in our underlying conversation. I'm also extremely honored and very happy to be joined by your excellencies. Some I can even call my friends, and I think this is the right approach towards building a proper capability infrastructure in the science and tech department with trusted partners, trusted allies, and of course a multi-stakeholder engagement. And here I would also like to salute the presence of our universities, and of course this is one of the largest capabilities we have in Romania, the innovation ecosystem that lies within the research and academic infrastructures. Now, building on these elements, of course, I come from a very privileged position in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because we are the representer of these capabilities. We are the facilitators of international conversations, and I am truly honored to be in charge of tech and science diplomacy with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Romania, because I honestly believe that there is a huge potential to be harnessed in Romania in the field of science and technology. It's not just the human capabilities, the brightest minds of our country, but it's also the partnerships, as I mentioned before, that we've formed with trusted allies across the globe. Now, this is probably the most important currency, trust, when we talk about dual-use technologies, because everything needs to be scaled up very quickly. The challenges, and these are warfare challenges already that we're facing in our region and across the globe, expect deployment, an immediate deployment of new technologies and capabilities. And so we must rely on the source of production of these capabilities. And in that sense, whether we're talking about leading innovators in the global scene like Israel and the United States, and we are very happy to have these conversations and partnership with our allies there, or we're talking about other allied member states in the European Union, relying on shared standards and capabilities is essential when we talk about dual-use technologies. Romania stands very well, I think, in this global scene, because in terms of our convening power and deployment power, we were able to scale up relatively quickly. Now, where we lag behind is an understanding that AI is not just a frontier technology, is something that we must diffuse across different sectors. And that will really increase our capability to stand tall along trusted allies. Now, one thing that we pursue in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not just the partnerships in the broader sense, but joint ventures. And this is something that I will be very keenly pursuing within our mandate to make sure that it's not just university to university or business to business, but it is all at the same time. Integration of defense innovation ecosystems means integration of regional supply chains, AI capabilities, cyber, digital, and all that comes with. And if we do rely on energy efficiency and energy production in Romania, that will only make us even more attractive to our trusted partners across the globe. Maybe I will stop here because we have a long panel, but I'm happy to come back with any answer to potential questions we might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Clara. Trust and integration are the two keywords that I selected from your first intervention. Your Excellency Lior Ben-Dor, Ambassador of State of Israel in Bucharest, your country is at the forefront of many dual-use technologies. How does this reality change the mandate of your diplomatic network and your cooperation with universities and research centers around the world?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, duality is a key word here. Combination, interoperability are key words here. And the combination of industry, defense system, and academy is very important. In Israel, for example, young people at the age of 18 years old, boys and girls, it's very important to integrate as much as we can women in this system. They go to the army, many of them go to intelligence units, many of them gain experience, operational experience in cybersecurity issues. And then at the age of 21, 22, they go to the university, they study, they become professors, and then they can make partnership with Israeli companies or with international companies. So it's all together. So for example, but it's also important to encourage the integration and combination between academy and the defense system in the following manner. For example, a professor at a university in Israel, on Monday, he can publish a research paper on these issues, and on the next day, Tuesday, he will be called up for a reserve duty or in his army unit or in the National Cyber Directorate in Israel, and he will be requested to contribute from his experience to find some solutions to protect our national assets. So it's the same knowledge, it's the same brain, but there are two different missions here. The combination is very important. Also, it's very important to encourage the researchers to publish as much as they can, to share their information with the world, but they have to know that it's good to publish and to share, but anyway, they should keep some, the implementation or the secrets for themselves. For example, they can establish an article about the importance of preservation of the national water resources, but at the same time, it will not really share the methods in which we protect our national water resources from our enemies. This will be shared with some other people. And at the same time, the defense officers are also, they also must understand that they can encourage their officers who are also professors in the university to share this knowledge. We in Israel, we developed not just the Iron Dome against the missile system or the missile threats, we also developed the Cyber Dome. We have a very vast cybersecurity ecosystem. It turns out that in Israel we have more than 600 companies, experts on this cybersecurity issue. And of course, necessity is the mother of all inventions. And we have a lot of challenges in Israel. We have to protect our national infrastructure. And sometimes it's very important to use our knowledge in the defense system to then use it in the civil sector. For example, it's very important to protect the automobile industry or the desalination industry or banks or education system, because these are also targets could be targeted by our enemies. So it's very important to create also an international ecosystem where should all the democratic countries should unite. We have to work together. We have to share information. Fragmentation is not good for anyone. We have to be able to share this information, to work together. And Romania, of course, as we see here, has a great potential. Yes, it's not just potential, but also capabilities. It's very important, and this is what you're doing in Romania, for the government to create the system in order to encourage individuals to work and to invent and to think outside the box. And it's very important, of course, as I said, to create international cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for sharing with us some relevant aspects for our topics. Israel is a source of inspiration for many countries in the world, especially for Romania, which is having a special connection with your country. Now, if I'm allowed to, I would like to talk to Her Excellency Evangelia Gramatica, Ambassador of Hellenic Republic in Bucharest, Your Excellency, and then we will go to His Excellency Mr. Tigran Garstian. But first of all, we go to the Republic, Hellenic Republic in Bucharest. Your Excellency, from the perspective of both European Union and NATO member state, how do you balance scientific openness, which is essential for innovation, with national security concerns in your diplomatic practice?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Excellencies and everyone. We need adaptability and flexibility in disruptive changes that are coming ahead, as my colleague, me coming to speak before my colleague Tigran. So indeed, from the perspective of an EU member state and a NATO ally, Greece, as is Romania, I think it is very important that we understand that we are facing incredible opportunities with the new technological advances and the potential and the opportunities created by AI and quantum computing technologies. And at the same time, the risks and the challenges are also important, and they are multi-layered. And how to counter those risks and challenges that can affect the resilience of our critical infrastructure, of the functioning of our governments, of the safety and security of our people, the cohesion of our society. It needs a multi-layered approach. The stakeholders on both sides, both on the technological development, are multiple. It's individuals, it is academic institutions, it is companies, it is malignant actors, it is state actors, and then on the other side as well, to counter the risks and the challenges that all this entails, we need a multi-stakeholder approach, and at different levels. At the national level, it was already mentioned, but it is not enough. Greece at the national level right now, as an EU member state, we participate very actively in the AI factories process. We are hosting one of the first AI factories, Pharos, in Athens, which will become operational, I think, already at the end of this year. And at the same time, we need to follow we have the EU framework and the regulations that we develop on an EU level. and for dual, which protect us and which present a framework for controlling the dual use capabilities in all sectors, including software and cyber capabilities. And then, of course, we still need the international cooperation, again, at a multi-stakeholders concept and level. International cooperation with the like-minded partners and countries, third countries, such as Israel, of course, which is a strategic partner also for Greece, and the US, and moreover, including the private companies and the private sector at various fora. There is the UN, there is also specialized fora, there is non-formal exchange of best practices, such as the Pol-Mol initiative. All these synergies we need to harvest, as they say in technology, and it is necessary in order to work towards legitimate, responsible use and control for the safety, the security, and the resilience of our society. Diplomacy is, of course, important in the sense that we need cooperation and we need to work coherently towards the elaboration of the frameworks for oversight. Our countries, and no country today is an island. We are interconnected, and interconnectivity and the need for interconnectivity is increasing, and it's very important. Therefore, we need cooperation and we need diplomacy with the adapted tools. We need to have and harvest from all expertise and cooperate government, academia, and private sector. Thank you.
Evharistopoli, Your Excellency, thank you for sharing with us your vision, multi-layered vision actually, taking into consideration the need of cooperation in a globalized world. And now we go to His Excellency Mr. Tigran Galstian, Ambassador of Republic of Armenia in Bucharest. Your Excellency, thank you for joining this panel. Armenia is navigating a complex regional environment with growing interest in technology and innovation. How do dual-use technologies influence your science and technology partnerships, and what tensions do you see between openness and security?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, congratulations to the organizers, and special mention to Victor Rivera for this carefully crafted concept of the event, and especially this discussion. The clock is stressing me out, so I will try to make it short. I think we need to update our vision and understanding of what national security is to answer to your question, openness or national security. Because the theory of national security that we have in us, the basis of it, is physical security of our citizens and the well-being of our citizens that the country should provide and protect. But with the emerging cyberspace of recent 15, 20 years, the security of our citizens is now no more only physical, but the target or attack can come from foreign interference with technologies without even touching our country's borders. So, coming to that, if we update our understanding of national security, we will also understand that the openness is not a balancing factor of security, but maybe a requirement to security. Scientific openness of trusted partners is something that is a must for national security, and I think I take the keyword of State Secretary Volunteer when she said trust, and that only word, trust, may be the key to secure our nations, And also, of course, democratic institutions are very important, because without democratic institutions, there is no, and strong civil society, there is no civilian oversight over how technology is used, and it's very easily can go into wrong hands in 5, 10, 15 years. So you need to have strong institutional framework in order to trust to each other, and in that case, openness really becomes part of national security and not a mitigating factor. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Trust between partners, it seems to be the best glue for putting together all the elements that we need to collaborate at this level. Let's see the vision of a professor, and we go to the Bulgarian Institute of ICT, Professor Zlatogor Minchev, Academy of Sciences. Professor? Okay. It's my glasses. From inside in a research institute working on ICT and cyber issues, where do you see the line between open science and the need to know in practice? And how do you translate national or allied security concerns into day-to-day research choices?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a tough question because when we talk about dual-use technologies, you need to have a clearinghouse solution. So, and also it's context dependable, because especially solutions like AI, they are safe evolving, so you cannot tailor that easy the future of this from cybersecurity perspective. But it should be in a way audience targeted. So if you work with researchers, for example, so you in a way provide innovations. But if you work with industrial partners that are global players, for example, you should be more careful. And here comes the role of diplomacy. So to negotiate on the right topics with the right partners. So it's quite tricky. Generally, open solutions are very interesting for innovations, but they are not useful for fast industrialization. So from this perspective, the future belongs to a hybrid solution. So we should involve in the stage the AI to support the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. We try to draw on a clear picture of mandates. They are not longer purely about promoting cooperation, but also managing risk and responsibility. And now let's move from diplomacy and national policy into the daily reality of universities, research partnerships where the dilemmas become very concrete. And the second round, it's dedicated to universities, partnership and sensitive technology transfer. In this round, we turn to academic side. Universities are international by nature. They send and receive students. They co-supervise PhDs. They run joint labs and projects. All of that now happens in dual-use context. So our next combined question is, how do you, as universities and research institutes, manage the risk of sensitive technology transfer in international partnerships, and what does it take to avoid a world of incompatible standards and block collaboration while still protecting sensitive capabilities? Again, I will kindly ask you to keep your interventions to around 2 minutes, and our first question goes to Professor Marian Barbu, Rector Dunărea de Jos University of Galați. Professor Barbu, your university is involved in engineering, maritime, industrial and digital projects with clear dual-use potential. What mechanisms do you have to put in place to manage sensitive know-how in international cooperation? Please, you have the floor.
Yes, morning everybody. It's let's say, interesting and difficult period for us. We should start from the fact that each university should become more entrepreneurial, so we have to try to have access to all these funds regarding the dual use. At the same time, we should be honest and say that always these technologies were having a dual use. Okay, maybe some time ago this was more on underground. Now it's more transparent, this dual use, but the problem was always there. It's very important in this context, the internationalization. We have, let's say, hundreds of students coming from all these countries We have to, on one hand, to give them all the education that they were promised when they were come. In the same time, we have to protect our technologies. As you said, also the problem of open science, it's very important. How much we should publish, how much of this content is confidential. Also, another problem is regarding how, let's say, transparent are the competition regarding the dual use of funds, which is a key aspect regarding the universities. I think all these aspects should be addressed maybe in a, let's say, more formal context. In the same time, as you said, we are mainly engineering university. We have important approaches regarding, for example, the naval architecture in the context of also some big companies that are close to Dunărea de Jos University of Galați. We are cooperating, we are trying to establish some partnerships, but as I said, it's important before we have all this solution to address these problems. Otherwise, for example, how much should one PhD student put in his PhD thesis regarding all these findings? How much we allowed to put in a thesis? Okay, if we go, let's say, on the patents solution to protect this, how a committee can evaluate the real value of the thesis if they don't have access to all this data?
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Barbu. I take the competition challenge from your first intervention, and thank you so much for this. We will have another 2 interventions from 2 universities, and for sure we will also have the pleasure to hear the vision of His Excellency Hazan Abouyud, Ambassador of Kingdom of Morocco in Bucharest. But now let's go to Danubius International University, whose rector, Professor Steve O'Michael, is here with us in the panel. As an American with years of experience, would you like to highlight how government funding could enhance universities' research directions while also advancing national security interests? Why not? And how has the dual-use debate changed the way you look at partnerships, mobility, and joint research, Professor?
Hello. Bună ziua. Thank you very much for the question, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Steve Michael. I'm from Los Angeles, California. And all the issues that you are discussing here as a provost of universities are issues that in the United States we've been dealing with for many years. And the reason is because the interest of a university is to be a catalyst and a critic of our civilization. And they do this by being at the frontier of the unknowns. The universities are supposed to search for truth, and that means research. And also to do that, universities attract talents from all over the world. All our universities, you have people from all over the world serving as researchers and students. So the interest of a university is to be open, and open for research. But then at the same time, government has its own interest of protecting the citizens. But then there is an intersection that the university occupies between globalization in attracting talent from all over the world and also being at the forefront of research, and at the same time making sure that they satisfy the needs of the government. So what we have found in the United States is that government use funding as a strategy to do a lot of things. I just put a paper together here to talk about the funding in NATO, for example. I discovered that only about 2% of the defense budget in Romania goes into research. In the United States, about 15%, over 15% of the defense budget goes into research. And that actually, amplifies and enhances the capacity of universities. And at the same time, government could use that funding strategies to control some of the relationships that we have in order to protect some of the emerging technologies. So government use a lot of funding, and not just the source of the funding, the size of the funding, the scale of the funding, and as well as the allocation strategy to achieve those goals. So it will be important, for countries that want to emulate some of those strategies. It's not just a matter of increasing the size of NATO funding. The funding can go into hardware, can go to personnel, or can go to research and innovation that would drive the economy. And most of what you have today, microwave, liquid crystals, all these things were developed in the laboratory of a university. And then you have now become dual use, okay? So it makes perfect sense for countries to think more about investment into research, and government using that strategy to amplify their institutions as well as the dual use for their community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can speak more.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Indeed, universities are, from the very beginning, determined to be open. They should remain open, of course, including for the dual-use perspective. Mr. Professor Alexandru Bobe, the Vice Rector of Ovidius University of Constanța. Professor, Constanța sits at a strategic point at the Black Sea. Your university is involved in fields that intersect with security, critical infrastructure. How do you manage the risk of sensitive technology transfer in this regional context?
Actually, I'll construct my answer on an example, in fact, given by his ambassador Bendor. And we have had before a penetration testing in Constanța port and also for critical infrastructure in grids that deals with energy. In the project that we have with ICI Bucharest, with the Director Vevera. And in that situation, of course, we have discovered some vulnerabilities. The researchers on the first side, they said, I want to publish quickly. This is so important. So wait, please, read the procedure. The procedure says to inform first the ones that have the problem. Secondly, verify that this is a real problem with the infrastructure that we have in Romania. And after that, maybe we'll publish. For sure we publish, but not in the first moment. So it's important to be a promoter of the open science, but also to be the guardian. So this is a practical example that we have had before. In such a manner, we can build procedures regarding cybersecurity, but all the dual-use technologies.
Indeed, promoter and guardian, mirroring the dual use with the dual role that the university is playing in such an area. Thank you so much, Professor. I will go now at the end of the first round of discussion to His Excellency Mr. Hassan Abouyub. Thank you for presence and for the patience. Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco in Bucharest, Your Excellency, your country is a key partner at the crossroads between Europe and Africa with growing ties in research and technology. From your vantage point, what are the main challenges and opportunities in building university and research partnerships that involve dual-use technologies between Europe and North Africa?
Thank you. Let me start by thanking my friend Adrian Vevera for this invitation. Hello to my colleagues around the table, to Clara, of course, our old friend. Your question is important. I think the main challenge is to fight and to remedy to digital illiteracy, not only in North Africa, but in Europe too. A huge resistance is the result of this illiteracy. We find it in the debate, ongoing debate. Second thing is that we have to take into account that there is no more monopoly of science and technology in the world. Individuals can do a lot. I take the example of drones. They're not coming from universities or laboratories. If you can use a programmable digital logic device, cost $2, and you can do a lot of things, including GPS technology, that was defense technology at the beginning, but it's now civil. And the frontier between civil technology and defense technology is narrowing. And we are going to more open opportunities and market for these technologies, and the use could be good or bad. And the problem there is to elaborate a strategy between Europe and countries like Morocco, because we are quite advanced in many issues, with no complex that we are underdeveloped, is still there. This arrogance is still, unfortunately, very important. In many sectors, we are world leaders. I can take one example. Security of the automatic bank tellers is a monopoly of Morocco worldwide. And not only that. So we should come with humility, build teams, exchange, make the maximum openness on the research that is fundamental, and build together protection against those that can do misuse of these technologies, this progress. We need solidarity, we need team building, and we need to forget about the old relationship north-south that is based on arrogance and humiliation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. ICI is successfully building teams in this period in Romania. Thank you for joining this panel. And thank you all for all the insights. After this first round, we will have a short lightning round, one concrete priority for the next 3 years. And I will, as His Excellency, the Ambassador of Israel, just informed me that he has to leave for another event. For 30 seconds, Your Excellency, one concrete priority for the next 3 years on your vision.
Specialization is very important. For each problem, we have to find a solution. I once spoke with someone from these cybersecurity companies, and I told him, do you all really have enough work for everybody? He told me yes, because one thief is going to try to break to your house from the window. So we will find a solution for how to prevent it. And another thief will try to get into your house from the roof. So you have to find another solution. So it's important to be expert, to develop specification, and again, together. We should do it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Toda raba, if I'm not wrong. Thank you so much.
Perfectly pronounced. Toda raba.
Thank you. Looking for the next 3 years. So please, Mrs. Clara Volintiru, one concrete priority you would put on the agenda in science diplomacy and international cooperation on dual-use technologies.
Should I go? Okay. I mean, for me, building on that, I think cooperation is the key. The challenges that we're facing are so large that we can no longer deliver on our own. The speed that we have to deliver on, again, doesn't allow us to build on our own. So what we really need to make sure, and this, I might be biased to the modus operandi of a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but I think what we really must build on is cooperation with trusted partners across the world.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Volintiru. Your Excellency, Mr. Tigran Galistan, Ambassador of Armenia, please, for 30 seconds.
Yes, so I just want to bring an example of 10 days ago, the first batch of NVIDIA high-capacity GPUs entered in Armenia. So this will create, it's a project of creation of AI cluster, which will set to be the second biggest in Europe. This is, for me, is a proof, even for me, it's the best proof of reliability of our institutions. When some tech transfer of that magnitude happens from country to country. So if you ask me what should be our project for next 3 years, is to keep institutionalization and reliability for our partners, for nations, and internationally I think it's maybe to invite some civic participation in decision making in terms of AI.
Thank you, Ambassador. Your Excellency, Mrs. Evangelia Gramatica, Ambassador of Greece.
Thank you very much. And indeed, we need to have adaptability and be able to rise to the continuing changing challenge ahead. And therefore, as I think I will not I will repeat that we need international cooperation and at regional, international level, like-minded countries, and of course with all stakeholders, including private industry and the private sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully we have the private sector here represented in the audience at least. Your Excellency, Ambassador of Morocco, Mr. Hassan Abouyub.
Thank you. We should think about human capital, and human capital should not have borders. There is a big mistake that is now in course in this new migration policy, and I don't think it's a good thing for the sharing of responsibility, of vision as far as technology is concerned.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We've already run out of time, but I think we can afford 2 minutes just to be sure that we will finish the second round. So, Mr. Professor Zlatogor Minchev, Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, your conclusion.
So, it's a multi-level, multi-stakeholder approach, but nowadays hybrid together with the artificial intelligence. That's from me. So we need the technology to make this clearinghouse and to speed the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Marian Barbu, Rector, Dunărea de Jos, University of Galați.
The university has human capabilities and also the infrastructure to be the leader for this move towards the dual use of technologies.
Thank you, Professor. Rector, Danubius International University, Professor Steve O'Michael.
Keep your universities open and free, but increase funding, use defense funds to make sure that universities are able to create dual-use technologies.
Thank you. And Professor Alexandru Bobe, Vice Rector of Ovidius University of Constanța, your vision, sir.
2 things. 1, be open to open science on non-sensitive domains, like climate change, like mathematics. And secondly, when you have guarded domains, put big fences just because you have to protect a small yard. So this is the idea when guarded domains.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you all for being so concise and concrete. I will try to capture our conversation in just a few words. I would say dual-use technologies are forcing us to reinvent science diplomacy. We need diplomats and science attachés with a deeper understanding of technology, universities, research institutes that take risk management seriously, and above all, trusted partnerships and compatible standards so that cooperation remains possible in a so much dangerous world. On behalf of the organizers that entrusted me with moderating this panel, I thank you all, and I hope you'll enjoy also this day with the next panels, and I will pass the floor to Raluca. And the organizers are inviting the panelists for a group photo at the Spider.
Pentru primul moment Industry Showcase al zilei, îl invit în scenă pe domnul Corneliu Vișoianu, Head of Defense Division at Lunox International Holding, care ne va prezenta câteva dintre direcțiile și proiectele companiei în domeniul apărării. Domnule Vișoianu, haideți pe acolo.
Mulțumesc frumos. Ok. Da. Ok. Bună ziua! Înțeleg că suntem în întârziere. Ca de obicei, s-au terminat speech-urile importante, au plecat miniștri, au plecat ambasadorii, dar am rămas să discutăm noi între noi. În esență, digitalizarea nu este doar o tehnologie, este o schimbare a modului în care oamenii gândesc. Creează și, în mod evident, își exercită puterea. Aseară, cu gândul la ziua de astăzi, am făcut câteva interogații și l-am întrebat pe Sun Tzu ce părere are despre digitalizare. Este clar că, din perspectiva lui, spune că cel care ocupă primul câmpul de luptă și așteaptă venirea inamicului va fi odihnit. Cel care ajunge ultimul trebuie să se grăbească în luptă și va ajunge epuizat. Evident că va câștiga cel care folosește informațiile mai inteligent, se adaptează mai repede și își construiește propriul sistem digital. Și pentru că ministrul educației este de la Suceava, l-am întrebat și pe Ștefan cel Mare despre digitalizare și mi-a spus că domnia nu stă în ziduri, ci în puterea de a te adăposti printre ele. Ce mai spune el și este important, spune că serverele trebuie puse în cetatea de scaun, în locuri sigure și bine păzite. Și mai atrage atenția asupra circulației hrisoavelor, să știe stânga ce face dreapta, adică să circule între dregătorii, să vorbească ministerele între ele. Evident, puțin mai sceptic la digitalizare s-a arătat Socrate, care, fiind părintele întrebărilor, spune: oamenii gândesc mai profund sau doar consumă informație? Ne ajută tehnologia la înțelepciune sau doar la acumularea de date? Cine controlează adevăratele adevăruri în epoca digitală? Au fost întrebările din panelurile de ieri, unde au fost reprezentanții mass media. Și pentru că discutam mai devreme că decidenții vin și decidenții pleacă, rămân de regulă consilierii care, la rândul lor, transmit mai departe informațiile. Și ca să închei aceste interogații, am întrebat și un tânăr de peste 100 de ani ce părere are despre digitalizare. Și a spus că strămoșii lui își dădeau niște date personale către niște entități care se chemau guverne. Și nici unii, nici alții nu știau la ce folosește treaba asta. Întorcându-ne în prezent, ieri am participat și la un alt eveniment, după cel de aici, legat de industria de apărare, unde am fost în mod plăcut surprins pentru că doamna senator Pauliuc, președinta Comisiei de Apărare din Parlamentul României, și împreună cu domnul Daniel Constantin, președintele ARICE, au rămas până la sfârșitul discuțiilor și am putut să schimbăm informații și să putem să ne consultăm unii cu alții. În mod evident, s-a făcut referire la articolul 346 din Tratatul privind funcționarea Uniunii Europene, care se referă la interesul esențial de securitate și care spune că statele pot să ia măsuri privind producția și comerțul de armament atunci când consideră că acestea sunt necesare pentru protejarea intereselor sale. Vedeți, aici este o problemă de decizie. Și întorcându-mă la problema comunicării, care am convingerea că este cheie în tot acest proces, am să trec și la scopul și la, menirea acestei prezentări pe care am să o fac către dumneavoastră din perspectiva platformei pe care o inițiem și pe care am început să o construim împreună cu ICI. Aș vrea, din acest punct de vedere, să-i mulțumesc domnului director general, Victor Vevera, încă o dată, pentru că în parteneriat cu ICI vom reuși, sper, să ducem la bun sfârșit acest proiect. Este, în esență, un loc comun în care companiile de stat, companiile private, cele din cadrul Uniunii Europene, din afara Uniunii Europene, cele din NATO sau non-NATO, care sunt apropiate nouă, da, în esență, industria, cei care produc valori, vor fi introduși pe această platformă. Deja aici afară este standul nostru Lunox International, îl găsiți imediat în dreapta și vă rog să nu pierdeți ocazia să fiți printre fondatori. Dar alături de industrie trebuie ca să mai adăugăm încă un spațiu. O cameră, dacă vreți, a acestei platforme de care să fie a regulilor, a statului, unde trebuie să intre instituțiile, agențiile, autoritățile locale, guvernul, comisiile parlamentare și, bineînțeles, tot ceea ce este instituțional din afară, ambasade, consilieri economici și atașații militari. Deopotrivă, este important să fim împreună, așa cum s-a menționat mai devreme, cu mediul academic, într-o altă cameră unde vor trebui să intre universitățile, centrele de cercetare, institutele, da, și, evident, cei care le deservesc. Pentru cei neafiliați vom avea o cameră individuală, unde vor fi prezente personalități ale vieții publice, oameni care au ieșit din activitate, dar care doresc să ajute în continuare, tinerii dotați care vor să se alăture. Și nu în ultimul rând, a 5-a încăpere va fi Camera Secretelor, unde vom da accesul mass mediei, da, evident, într-un mod absolut protejat. De ce facem toată această construcție? Pentru că lumea nu mai cumpără produse, pentru că lumea cumpără soluții și pentru o soluție nu este suficient un simplu produs sau un simplu serviciu. Este nevoie ca mai mulți actori să fie implicați, să fie împreună și să poată să ofere o soluție integrată, care de multe ori depășește granițele țărilor, care de multe ori are nevoie de o formă de parteneriat care excede frontierele. Pentru asta trebuie ca să ne asigurăm că funcționează conectivitatea, că avem o suveranitate care poate fi integrată, care se adaptează și în felul acesta reușim să mărim viteza. Fără să avem strategii pe termen mediu și lung, evident că nu putem să facem aceste construcții. De ce? Pentru că, așa cum s-a menționat și mai devreme, din partea, în mod special, a mediului academic, da, după 80 de ani de pace, lumea și-a dat seama că, de fapt, starea naturală a planetei este cea conflictuală. Ori asta ne duce către conceptul de dual use, care, în mod evident, înseamnă o pregătire pentru o viață normală, care până acum apărea ca fiind anormală. De aceea, în mod evident, este importantă viteza și este importantă încrederea. Pentru asta, în concluzie, da, trebuie să asigurăm această circulație a informațiilor, circulația hrisoabelor, cum spunea Ștefan cel Mare. Ele trebuie să fie aceste servere pentru platforma noastră găzduite în România, în cetatea de Scaun. Va trebui ca să avem o criptare, așa cum am planificat-o împreună cu partenerii și de la aici, end-to-end, în sensul că doar expeditorul și destinatarul să poate citi mesajele, să avem un sigiliu până la urmă al voievodului, să avem un control detaliat și pentru asta va trebui să folosim un sistem multifactor authentication, care să funcționeze pe bază de garanții, de parole, de sigilii, de recunoaștere, în așa fel încât sistemul să poată să fie extrem de sigur. Și pentru asta va trebui să construim împreună un Consiliu de Guvernanță care să poată să reprezinte structurile acestea de bază. Așa cum spuneam, dacă timpul este cel mai prețios activ strategic, Lunox va reuși să transforme aceste rapoarte statice într-o formă de aliniere dinamică, într-o birocrație lentă, în fluxuri digitale de încredere. Cine se adaptează mai repede decât adversarul va supraviețui. Astfel, digitalizarea va deveni noua cetate de scaun. Sper să mă ierte colegii de la Lunox, pentru că nu am făcut o prezentare exhaustivă a companiei, dar sunt convins că dacă este interesant ceea ce am spus acum, ne veți căuta și veți fi în contact și în legătură directă cu noi. Pentru că timpul este foarte scurt și deja s-a depășit graficul, am să vă rog să-mi permiteți să mă opresc aici. Vă mulțumesc și, evident, vă așteptăm alături ca să putem să continuăm discuțiile. Mulțumesc!
Doamnelor, domnilor, ne îndreptăm spre următorul panel. Trăim într-un context internațional marcat de conflicte și tensiuni regionale, iar spațiul digital a devenit tot mai mult parte a acestor realități. De aceea, cyber diplomacy și instrumente de cooperare internaționale sunt esențiale pentru dialog, prevenție și gestionarea crizelor. Panelul următor va fi moderat de Monica Gheorghiță, ministru consilier în cadrul Departamentului Consular și fost secretar de stat pentru afaceri globale în Ministerul Afacerilor Interne. O invit pe Monica pe scenă. Monica va prezenta speakerii din panelul său. Îți las microfonul sau vorbește acolo?
Okay. Distinguished audience, Your Excellencies, Madam Ambassador, Mr. Ambassador, Madam Secretary of State, dear colleagues and friends, allow me to begin with a simple observation that captures one of the defining paradoxes of our time. While wars are still fought with missiles and soldiers, the conflicts that shape them increasingly unfold in networks, in algorithms and narratives. Regional conflicts today remained rarely confined in geography. They reverberate through digital infrastructures, financial systems, satellite networks, and the vast ecosystem of information that structures our societies. The battlefield is no longer only territorial, it has become informational, technological, and cognitive. So for this reason, the theme of our panel could hardly be more timely: the role of cyber diplomacy and tools in managing regional conflicts. So I am profoundly honored to welcome today to our panel Her Excellency Madam Clara Staicu, State Secretary for European Affairs, Middle East and Africa in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Please join us. Her Excellency Ulla Kraus-Nussbaumer, Ambassador of Austria to Bucharest. Your Excellency, you are welcome to join the panel. His Excellency, Mr. Mediatama Suryodiningrat, Ambassador of the Republic of Indonesia in Bucharest. Mr. Tural Mamadov, Chief Information Security Officer, State Service for Special Communication and Information Security from the Republic of Azerbaijan. Please join us. Mr. Amirun Hakim bin Eldin Hussaini, researcher at the University of the Bundeswehr in Munich. Mr. Adrian Lesenchuk, Vice Rector for Science and Digitalization of Henry Coandă Air Force Academy from Brașov. And last but not least, Mr. Georgios Koliaridis, Senior Advisor from the Austrian Institute for European and Security Policy with a double hat related to the coordination of the EU P2P dual-use export control program from the foreign policy instrument, the European External Action Service, and also senior advisor to the Austrian Institute for European and Security Policy. Before we proceed, Your Excellencies, allow me to confess a minor and entirely involuntary breach of protocol. In deference to what may be the most uncompromising actor in international affairs, that is the airport departure times, I will invite our distinguished representative of the European Union to speak first, and I trust our esteemed ambassadors and Madam State Secretary that you will graciously indulge this logistical diplomacy. So, Georgios, you are welcome to join. You share with us your thoughts on a very challenging topic, that is the control of global intangible technology transfer, such as cyber or AI-enabled, the components and the equipments, and the preemption of misuse in weapons of mass destruction. We understand that the current paralysis of the respective multilateral regimes, in combination with the absence of binding treaties with a uniform set of rules and a monitoring regime, create an extremely challenging situation for peace and stability. So, Georgios, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I feel very privileged to be sitting among all those distinguished speakers with much more experience than I have, and I have to apologize in advance to my fellow speakers and to the audience for having to leave earlier to the airport. I will be speaking for this session also in my principal capacity as one of the coordinators of the European Union dual-use export control program. I think this will create a bridge also with a previous session where some very important challenges have been voiced. And one major challenge, and this is how I would start with, is how to control intangible technologies. There is, also in the history of the 20th century, there are major differences between how to control nuclear and radiological technologies, biological technologies, chemical technologies, and information and communication technologies. The information and communication technologies cannot be very easily protected, such as nuclear and radiological technologies or synthetic biology, which are locked behind highly secured laboratories. So ICT and also highly advanced and edge ICT technologies get developed in SMEs, in startups, in research and technology organizations, in universities, and in industry, which do not have that very high standards of protection. For good reasons, because they're in research. However, this can get exploited for malicious purposes and for usage in weapons of mass destruction. And this is exactly the mandate of the European Union P2P program, to restrict illicit diversion, what we say in that legal jargon, illicit diffusion of such technologies to be misused not merely in weapons against human rights and against public security. Now, you will allow me, without becoming too technocratic, to list those technologies that are within the scope of what we call cyber threats and cyber security, which belong to the category 5 of the European Union control list. And these are cyber surveillance technologies, cryptanalysis, intrusion software, facial and emotional recognition, location tracking, content extraction, and forensic and investigation tools. Now, please do not misunderstand me. All those technologies are really important to be developed as capabilities. We need them. At the same time, we need to devise governance mechanisms in order for them not to end in the wrong hands. I think this is a game that we need, a balance that we need to master. We do not, as of now, have a playbook how to do it, and this makes the job of all those top diplomats in the previous session and also in this session extremely demanding. My last point is just to remind that throughout the 20th century, in the post-World War era, it took us decades in order to put in place regimes, treaties, and conventions to protect humanity from the malicious usage of nuclear technologies, for example. And with regard to cyber technologies, we are much behind from that point. We lack treaties. We have, as of now, some very weak non-binding agreements, and I'm sure that the fellow speakers are more knowledgeable than me to speak about that. That's why I wish to end with that urge to all those very important and very successful actors in the audience who develop and deploy such technologies to get sensitized about not merely the dual use in terms of civil-military, but about the dual character of beneficial and destructive potential of those technologies. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Georgios. And with your very insightful presentation, we turn to a perspective that is particularly meaningful for today's discussion, because if cyber diplomacy reflects the evolving relationship between technology and international relations, ministries of foreign affairs are increasingly at the forefront of translating these transformations into policy, cooperation, and international dialogue. So Romania has been active in the last years, engaged in these efforts both as a member of the European Union and as a country situated in a region where questions of security, resilience, and digital governance have become especially relevant. So it is therefore a great pleasure for me to welcome the State Secretary for European Affairs, Middle East and Africa of the Romanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whose work contributes directly to shaping Romania's engagement in international discussions on cybersecurity, digital governance, and the broader architecture of cooperation in cyberspace. So, Madam State Secretary, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. I think that 45 minutes to have this discussion is far from enough, to say the least, and I'm pretty sure that each of us is going to bring forward a different view of the same topic, which will only show how complex it is. On my side, I'm not going to make a long introduction about the cyber threat landscape. We are all aware of it. What I would like to say is that in today's world, digital security underpins the functioning of the state itself. Cybersecurity is no longer a technical, narrow field that is in the remit of specialized agencies. It has evolved into a horizontal topic that touches on all major sectoral policies, from internal to external security, financial stability, economic resilience. That means that now cybersecurity shapes governance at every level, inside and outside of states. If we look at how we protect the critical infrastructure, if we look at how we safeguard our public services, if we look at the security of the financial system or defending the strategic interests. Therefore, digital resilience is not an optional, it's not an option anymore. It has become a precondition for political stability, for social trust, and for economic competitiveness of our states. And coming further from this, cybersecurity, its impact extends beyond the digital sphere, and it influences our relationships with neighboring states and our broader foreign policy posture. And here is where our work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs starts to show, if I may say so, because cybersecurity becomes an essential dimension of foreign policy and strategic positioning. It shapes alliances, it shapes partnerships, and of course the balance of power in an increasingly digitalized international environment. Now, coming to the subject of today's discussion, cyber diplomacy is an essential tool that strives for cooperation answers. The most, let's say, agreed upon definition that I could find is the use of diplomatic tools, negotiation in international cooperation to manage state behavior in cyberspace, aiming to promote a secure, open, and stable digital environment. And that is indeed our objective when we talk about cyber diplomacy. For Romania, international cooperation within the multilateral frameworks is a must and the first. And also our bilateral dialogues with EU member states, allies, and like-minded partners are essential in order to ensure cyber security. These are all important dimensions of our cyber diplomacy, if I may say so. And I'm going to present very briefly what we do on different levels. First of all, we have an active engagement that we are planning to continue with the United Nations framework. We laid last year the foundation for the global mechanism on cybersecurity that will become operational starting this year. This opens a new era for cyber diplomacy. At EU level, we have the cyber diplomacy toolbox, which provides the necessary instruments for joint EU diplomatic response to malicious cyber activities. It's part of our approach at EU level to cyber diplomacy, and it contributes to conflict prevention, mitigation of cybersecurity threats, and greater stability in international relations. We, as Romania, also work very much with interested and our closest partners to consolidate cybersecurity. The very good example I can give and very recent is the establishment of the Triple Cyber Alliance with a Memorandum of Understanding that was recently signed between Romania, the Republic of Moldova, and Ukraine at the level of the cybersecurity agencies from these three countries. And if I may say so, as our minister recently pointed out in a discussion with NATO's Assistant Secretary General for Cyber and Digital Transformation, our country is not just a security beneficiary, but a cyber expertise hub ready to offer solutions and lessons learned to the entire alliance. Another, if I may say, useful point that we can, or what can I say, another useful area that we might bring to the table is hosting the European Cybersecurity Center. This very important center of the European Union, which is, as you well know, hosted in Bucharest, confirms also our strategic role in this field. Our direct experience in managing hybrid attacks gives us an advantage in developing rapid and also efficient response mechanisms, which are essential for NATO's collective resilience in the face of new cyber threats and also, of course, of the European Union. So if I may conclude, based on the high competence and valuable contribution of our structures and institutions, which have an, if I may say, European and worldwide recognized experience, Romania is ready to do its part at European and international level, both on digital and also on cyber diplomacy. Thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, State Secretary. I believe that Romania reflects a broader transformation that we observe in international relations today, and that is the growing importance of states that combine diplomatic engagement, technological expertise, and regional awareness to contribute to the governance of cyberspace, and the trilateral that you mentioned is just a last example in this regard. Allow me now to turn to a country whose diplomatic tradition has long been associated with dialogue, with mediation, with multilateral engagement, Austria has played an important role in hosting and facilitating international conversations on security, governance, and cooperation. And in the evolving landscape of cyber diplomacy, where norms and confidence-building measures, international cooperation remains essential, such traditions as multilateral dialogue are more relevant than ever. So it is therefore a great pleasure to invite Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Austria, Madam Kraus-Nussbaumer, to share her perspective. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you actually for hosting this great conference on such a burning and ever-growing topic. But said that, I want to pick up what you just said about Austria and Austria's tradition. I believe these are still values more than ever valuable in our growing time, because at the core of our and of multilateral lateral engagement in general is something what was mentioned on the panel before, and that is trust. And in an even more complex world, it is trust actually. We have to grow, we have to intensify, we have to cherish, we have to build on to find solutions. And we are all thinking and talking about how can we actually tackle these new elements of cyber in general, in every field, which for at least my generation is a rather new topic. But I believe the problems which come with it are old problems. It's a problem of threat, of interference, of violence, of transgression. And actually, we developed tools for that a long time ago in international law. So Austria's belief is actually we have the instruments already in our hands. We have to adapt them, but we have them. The international law is still valid. It's still valid in cyberspace as well. It will have to be adjusted and specified in many cases. It will have to be clarified what it might mean in specific circumstances, but the toolbox is there. And it goes from the notion of sovereignty up to human rights. And the European Union, as a regional cooperation, is a beacon of trust from one country to the other. So the toolboxes developed by the European Union, like the toolbox on cyber diplomacy already mentioned, or the paper done in Tallinn on human rights, these are all means actually to progress in this direction. But we should, I believe, never forget the core of diplomacy, which is building trust by communicating, by talking, by exchanging, by sharing, and also by listening. By that we can learn. And we in the European Union are very well equipped for that. We have these instruments, and as an Austrian diplomat, I'm very happy to say that being one of the UN cities, which we're very proud that we are, and we always have been a place of discussion and of talking to one another. Maybe not in agreeing, but talking. That's the first step. And in this tradition, we are very proud that it was just decided that Austria will have a working group on artificial intelligence. We are pretty active also within the OECD. Never forget the OSCE also as a mean for trying to find solutions for problems we at the moment might not even know. And in this context, for example, we organize working groups specifically for the countries of the Western Balkans, Ukraine, Moldova, on the topic how to protect critical infrastructure. And Romania, I believe, is on the forefront of knowledge together with Moldova in this regard. So I suppose we all might be looking forward to workshops, more and more workshops hosted by Romania, how we could protect our critics. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for sharing with us your thoughts. We move now to a country that is one of the most influential voices of the Indo-Pacific, navigating questions of digital sovereignty and regional stability in such a rapidly evolving technological landscape. And before our next speaker, allow me to return briefly to a metaphor of the strategic games that Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, mentioned in one of your interviews with the Romanian media. In Europe, we often think in terms of chess, a game of decisive moves and clear hierarchies. In East Asia, strategy is sometimes compared to Go, or Gomuku, or Othello, which influence gradually spreads across the board. In Indonesia, however, I believe there is another beautiful strategic tradition, and that is of Conglak. It is the well-known Mancala game played across the archipelago. Unlike chess, Conglak is less about defeating the opponent and more about careful distribution, anticipation, and the patient circulation of resources across the board. So in a way, cyber diplomacy sometimes resembles Conglak. Success often depends on foresight, on balance, and the ability to anticipate how small moves travel across a complex system. So with that thought in mind, it is my great pleasure to invite His Excellency Mediatama Suryondingrat, the Ambassador of Indonesia, to take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, for your very kind introduction towards Indonesia, and you remind me that I have to watch what I say next time in front of the media. My appreciation, first and foremost, to ICI for this wonderful conference and the invitation to be in this panel with such esteemed speakers. So very quickly, the question for today's, or this panel session is the role of cyber diplomacy in managing regional conflicts. I would say that is not a difficult question to answer. In fact, it is probably an impossible question to answer. And the reason I say that is primarily how can you expect cyber diplomacy to resolve regional conflicts when cyber diplomacy in itself does not have the standards of frameworks of norms towards that cyber diplomacy, which in this case is still very much non-existent. And when you talk about such standards, you are always going to be in conflict between national sovereignty versus technical competency. You are going to be in conflict between political decisions and industrial standards. And that in itself should not be surprising, because the advancing of technology is always at least a decade ahead of the evolution of human culture. And then the laws that need for that is 5 to 10 years behind that. So I am not surprised in that respect. Having said that, over the last 10 years, we have seen a very slow but very deliberate evolution of these norms. And while it remains to be seen how they developed with regard to cyber diplomacy and its role towards conflict resolution, I believe there will be a three sort of foundational approach, a three-legged stool. And the first one is obviously what is already in existence, international law. I know when we talk about international law this week, it doesn't sound much, but our basis is still international law. The second is what has been developing in the United Nations, I think over the last decade, which is the UN norms on the responsible behavior of state actors in cyberspace. I think that was around 2015, 2016. And I believe that even in our region, in my region, Southeast Asia, the 10 ASEAN countries at the time had already adopted it in 2018 to 2019. It's good to look up I will not say, I think there is about 11 principles, and one of the primary ones has been the prevention of misuse of ICTs within our sovereign area. The third foundation, I think, will be public and private accords and public and private initiatives regarding these norms. And you have seen these evolve. Among them is the Paris Call towards the trust and security in cyberspace, and then there's also the Cyber Tech Accords, which has been developed by non-state actors. At the end of the day, these are the things that we need to form as a basis, a platform to increase the role of cyber diplomacy in conflict resolution, rather than the role of cyber diplomacy rather than just in consular affairs, which is currently very available and prevalent. With Indonesia's case, with regard to cyber diplomacy, I think there are three very important principles, and I think it is shared by many in the global south. And the first and foremost should be respect for digital sovereignty. Respect for digital sovereignty. The second must be that the ICT or digital diplomacy should not be the new battleground for superpower competition. In other words, cyber diplomacy should not be the new Cold War, which it may seem to be developing at present. And third and foremost, in our own regional organization, in our own regional spheres, it is our duties to translate these norms which have been developed, these very ambiguous norms, into relatable regional action. And hence, if there is any hope that we can progress cyber diplomacy towards conflict resolution, I think these foundations must be set into place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, Your Excellency, for these insightful reflections. If our previous interventions highlighted the diplomatic and strategic dimension of cyberspace, our next speaker brings closer to the operational realities of cybersecurity, where resilience and protection of digital infrastructures become essential elements of regional stability. So we are honored to welcome today the Chief Information Security Officer of the State Service for Special Communication and Information Security of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mr. Tural Mamadov. And I believe that Azerbaijan represents a particularly interesting case in this regard. For our discussion today, these perspectives are particularly valuable because cyber diplomacy cannot be understood solely as a matter of international norms or diplomatic dialogue. It also relies on the expertise of those who work every day at the operational level of cybersecurity and digital protection. So it is a great pleasure to invite our distinguished colleague from Azerbaijan to share his insights. Mr. Mamadov, take the floor.
Thank you very much for invitation, and I'm happy to be here and share our experience in this topic. Actually, as Mr. Ambassador touched very important issues, like to have shared terminologies, to have common frameworks, so that to define what the states, what countries clearly understand what actions are acceptable and what are not acceptable, where clear rules also reduce misunderstanding and help prevent unnecessary escalation between states. Before the operational sides of the issues, I think we need to understand the highly interconnection of the critical infrastructures within the countries. We now clearly understand that critical infrastructures in one country, the cyber attacks to those infrastructures can escalate and can affect the other regions' critical infrastructures, economies, and so on. If we make a parallel, for example, the recent geopolitical events in the Middle East, we can see that the effect of the oil roads can be seen. We can see the effects of the oil roads in different regions, which has no any bind or any relations with this war or geopolitical issues. We can see the effect of the oil rise, how it affects the economical side of different countries. And so that even in the example, as in Azerbaijan, as you know, Azerbaijan is one of the provider of energy for the Europe. And the attack to the energy sector in Azerbaijan can also affect the energy infrastructure in Europe and its energy sources. So the attack to one country's critical infrastructure can affect the other countries as well. So if we understand clearly the effect of the attacks and how they can be escalated, how they can have impact to different countries, will be more critical to approach the cybersecurity, and we'll be more happy to work together, to collaborate, to fight against such attacks. So we also see progress at the international level. For example, United Nations Convention Against Cybercrime, which is newly adopted, and Azerbaijan is also part of this convention and newly ratified this convention, and local law is also ratified according to this convention. And what we can see, like when we take a look to the cyber incidents, we can see that there are a lot of spoofed attacks from different kind of from different countries. So collaboration is really vital in this approach, and the cyber diplomacy is also, mediation is also very vital to define where the real attacks is coming. Because in spoofed attack, it can be the attacker who just wants to hide their real IPs, but it can also be the countries who want to raise the relations between other two countries, to raise, how to say, to crisis between other two countries. That's why it's very vital to define and to mediate and to discuss where the attacks are coming, to define the real sources, and it's the issue of the confidence building. So confidence building approaches between countries via the help of the cyber diplomacy, via the help of the collaborative issues is very vital. We can also see that in cyberspace, collective regulation and diplomacy allow even smaller states to influence global technological standards. We can see the examples from general data protection in Europe, where it shows how countries can work together and create rules that influence global digital standards. We can also see EU Artificial Intelligence Act that demonstrates how governments can collectively develop frameworks to work to manage the risk of the emerging technologies. So the collective approach and collective diplomacy can help us to collaborate together and to be more resilient in order to fight against the attacks and to fight and to limit the escalation of the unintended cyber attacks or cyber issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these insightful reflections and for bringing us closer to the operational realities of cybersecurity and the protection of critical infrastructure. If the previous interventions illustrated how states build resilience at the institutional and technical level, our discussion now moves to another important dimension, that is the analytical and research perspective where policy, technology and strategic foresight intersect. And Germany, and particularly research institutions focusing on defense, have been at the forefront of examining the evolving relationship between digital technology, security, and international governance. So it is my pleasure to invite our next speaker, Mr. Amirun Hakim bin Eldin Hussaini, who is a researcher at the University of Bundeswehr in München, to share his insights.
Thank you for the kind words, and ICI Bucharest for the invitation, the opportunity to share the stage with such great people. I come from a research background, and so my perspectives will come towards the development of tools and technologies to support perhaps the cyber diplomatic process. Particularly my area of research my interests lie in looking into defining thresholds for particular acts of cyber aggression. For me, a particularly ambiguous form of cyber aggression that requires, I think, more focus is the topic of disinformation, cognitive warfare, hybrid threats, and information warfare, particularly within the social media space. I think it's particularly important to have both qualitative and quantitative metrics to define thresholds to provide early warning, early detection of these phenomena. Particularly, I focus on things such as polarization, hate speech detection, real-time monitoring of the social media space, and the relevance of providing such data-driven bases for such thresholds, I think, is evident in the impacts and in the prevention of escalation when it comes to things like disinformation, cognitive warfare. As we know, disinformation lies or operates as a sort of hybrid threat, so it sits within the cyberspace, but also bleeds into things like political violence, extremism, political and societal instability, and thus the relevance of developing tools and technologies, particularly in defining early detection, I think is really relevant, not just in preventing cyber threats or acts of cyber aggression, but also in supporting the cyber diplomatic process. And I believe in the development of such tools, there's a real need to connect research and innovation with actors within the cyber diplomatic process, as well as non-state actors. I think particularly there's a real gap in involving, for example, private companies, social media companies in the process of defining thresholds, in the process of defining norms. I think private companies, particularly social media companies, hold soft power in defining or setting norms in cyber behaviors. This is likely due to the ubiquity of social media platforms and the ubiquity of social media platforms as a political communication tool, as a public sphere for political discourse and defining political ideology. And I think as such, there's a gap in involving such private institutes or infrastructure in the development of reliable tools and technologies to support cyber diplomatic processes to prevent or address cyber threats like disinformation, cognitive warfare, hybrid threats, etc. Yeah, so that's my perspective on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this analytical perspective from Munich, which reminds us how essential research and strategic foresights are in understanding the rapid evolving cyber domain. Allow me now to bring our discussion back to Romania in the closure of this panel, and more specifically to the intersection between cybersecurity, technological innovation, and the defense sector. In the contemporary international environment, military education institutions play an increasingly important role in preparing the next generation of specialists capable to navigate complex relationship between technology, security, and strategic making. And the Henry Coandă Air Force Academy in Brașov stands as one of Romania's key institutions in this field. They combine academic research, technological development, operational training in areas that are becoming even more central to modern security, from digital systems to cyber resilience. So we are therefore honored to welcome the Vice Rector for Science and Digitalization of the Henry Coandă Air Force Academy, whose work reflects precisely this convergence between scientific research, digital transformation, and defense education. I'm delighted to invite you, Mr. Vice Rector, to share your perspective.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for your so kind introduction. It is a great honor for me to address you both as a soldier, as a professor. It is quite difficult to discuss on this topic because in the case of the soldier, we are discussing about the fact that they are training for fight for their land, for their air and seas. What about the cyberspace? It is quite difficult to address this problem. It is quite difficult to define the cyberspace and to establish exactly what is about the possibilities of fighting in order to defend the cyberspace. Actually, cyberspace is a global common. It is something that belongs to everybody, that should be shared, and that should be protected. And if I remember well, 5 days before the war in Ukraine to be waged, the President of the United States said, if Russian Federation will use cyber attacks against NATO countries, we will consider these attacks as being a violation of Article 5. It is quite impossible to define if those attacks took place or not, and it is quite difficult to define the national cyberspace. That's why, in terms of cyberspace, speaking from the perspective of a soldier, it is quite difficult to understand how there are some countries where there is a quite clear difference between defense and attack. In NATO countries, for example, there is quite easy to explain to everybody that cyber network defense is something done 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. But in the case of cyber network exploitation or cyber network attacks, it is not permitted. It is something that should be permitted by the national institutions, by the National Council for Defense, by the North Atlantic Council, for example. And there are also some countries where this difference between attack and defense, it is not visible. Putting together these terms, cyber attacks and hybrid threats, it is something easy to explain as long as the term hybrid threats in NATO countries' perspective is something connected to the military field, military area, to the battlefield. In the other countries, in the case of some sharp power actors, we will discuss about hybrid threats as something produced at the political, economic, and of course, at the symbolic level. That's why, from the perspective of a soldier, it is very important to discuss about the most important role of the cyber diplomacy in order to precisely explain and establish and connect technological advancements, national security areas, international law, and of course, to transform all these elements into something that is used in our language as being the rules of engagement. Thank you very much.
much to all the speakers. I open the floor for questions now. If anybody from the audience would like to take advantage of this incredible experience that we have with our panelists today. Anyone? All right then, the final curtain if not. If there is one lesson from today's panel, it may be this. The future of international stability will not be decided only on physical battlefields, but also in the invisible architecture of networks, of data and digital trust. And ultimately, the question before us today is not only how cyber tools influence regional conflicts, the deeper question is how diplomacy itself must evolve in a world where the boundaries between the physical and digital domains have become increasingly porous. As fascinating as this discussion is, time, just like cyberspace, moves faster than we sometimes expect. In the interest of our program, then, allow me to conclude our panel. Let me thank you again to our distinguished speakers and to the audience for this rich exchange of ideas. It has been a privilege to moderate this conversation, and please join me again in thanking our speakers today.
În cadrul următorului moment Industry Showcase avem două prezentări. Îl invit în scenă pe domnul Ștefan Taciuc, director Data Center Public Sector la tema Energy, urmat de Dragoș Barbu, coordonator tehnic la Raw AI Factory. Domnule Taciuc.
Bună ziua! Bună ziua tuturor! Numele meu este Ștefan Taciuc și conduc divizia de Data Center și Public Sector în cadrul tema Energy, cel mai mare integrator de centre de date atât fixe în clădiri dedicate private de colocare sau de AI, cât și mobile sau modulare. Astăzi nu vreau să vă povestesc foarte mult despre ce face tema Energy, ci aș vrea să povestesc despre, sau să discutăm despre rolul strategic pe care îl are România pe harta globală a infrastructurii digitale. Ne aflăm într-un moment critic în care centrele de date nu sunt doar clădiri cu servere, ci pilonii economiei viitorului. De ce România? Avem argumente macroeconomice solide, avem un PIB de 400 de miliarde de euro, o populație de peste 19 milioane de locuitori și, cel mai important, competențe remarcabile în IT și inginerie. Suntem membru UE și NATO și din 2027 și membru OECD și putem oferi o poziție strategică între statele Europei Centrale și Marea Neagră. Din punct de vedere operațional, oferim un mix competitiv, putere electrică disponibilă, costuri de construcție mai mici, forță de muncă înalt calificată, atât în inginerie cât și în IT, disponibilitate și prețuri mai mici pe zona de terenuri. Direcția ar trebui să fie clară. O simplificare a procedurilor de autorizare și construcție și să creăm un punct unic de contact pentru mari investitori. Tehnologia nu doar progresează, după cum vedeți și în imagine, ci se reinventează structural prin AI și prin inteligența artificială și augmented cognition. Impactul global al inteligenței artificiale este estimat la 15,8 trilioane de dolari. România are șansa de a capta o parte din acest flux, trecând de la o piață de consum la una de infrastructură critică. Unde ne aflăm în momentul de față în clasamentul mondial? România se află pe locul 29 în topul centrelor de date, la nivel mondial ca număr de centre de date. Însă piața este dominată clar și la o distanță uriașă de Statele Unite ale Americii, China și Europa de Vest, prin Germania, Marea Britanie și Franța. Fără energie, infrastructură și date, AI-ul nu poate exista. Centrele de date sunt coloana vertebrală a economiei digitale. Pentru a construi sustenabil, avem nevoie de energie constantă, de acces la noi surse de energie, de capacitate mare și o dezvoltare rapidă în producția de energie. Lucruri pe care România le poate asigura prin mixul său energetic. Privind spre 2030, cererea de energie în centrele de date va crește exponențial. Centrele de date vor ajunge la un consum de până la 945 de teravați-oră față de 420, adică mai mult decât dublu în această perioadă. Investițiile în construcțiile de centre de date vor ajunge să fie de peste 49 de miliarde de dolari anual. Este o oportunitate pe care nu o putem ignora și de care România trebuie să încerce să profite și să atragă cât mai mult pe zona aceasta de investiții. În Europa, piața este dominată de vest. Peste 5200 de megawatts în Europa de vest, putere instalată, dar regiunea centrală și de sud-est vine din urmă și atrage tot mai multe investiții masive până în 2031. Astfel, partea de colocare și hyperscale vor atrage cele mai mari investiții în această regiune, însă centrele de date din zona de AI vor deveni cele mai mari consumatoare de energie. În prezent, România are 65 de centre de date, cu o rată de ocupare de 95%. Polul principal este București, clar, unde s-a detașat mai de departe, cu peste 27 de centre de date, iar următoarele regiuni sunt Timișoara, Cluj, Brașov, care încearcă să vină din urmă. Așa cum spuneam și mai devreme, costul de construcție în România este cam cu 20% mai mic decât în Europa de Vest, în a construi un centru de date, însă va trebui să mai lucrăm și în celelalte părți pentru a atrage investițiile. Dacă în momentul acesta avem undeva la 70-80 de megawatts în România în centre de date, estimarea noastră este că până în 2030 piața se va dezvolta undeva la 200-250 de megawatts. Și astfel vom mai recupera din decalajul acesta. Pe partea de conexiuni de fibră optică, arterele care ne leagă de restul lumii, în momentul acesta România este conectată cu Europa de Vest destul de bine, însă țările din jur, Bulgaria și Grecia, ne-au luat-o înainte pentru a asigura conexiuni mai bune, latențe scăzute și transferuri mari de date. În această privință și România va trebui să creeze o strategie și să poată să dezvolte mult mai bine partea aceasta de conexiuni de fibră optică. Direcțiile strategice pe care noi le vedem pentru România, ce trebuie să facem? Și sunt câțiva pași. Simplificarea legislației, facilități fiscale pentru energie și investitori, înființarea unei agenții naționale pentru AI și crearea de parcuri industriale dedicate în jurul marilor producții de energie, precum small modular reactors sau centrale mari de producție de energie, care să devină pilonii pentru atragerea de investiții în AI sau în data center zone. Și dezvoltarea de programe de educație profesională, atât publice cât și private, pentru a putea crea un mediu educațional și pentru a putea crea specialiștii de mâine. Avem câteva modele europene la care ar trebui să ne uităm și de la care avem foarte multe lucruri de învățat. Italia a accelerat partea de autorizații de construcție sau autorizații de racordare la energie și a grăbit până la 35 de zile, ceea ce este foarte important. Grecia a alocat 4 miliarde de euro în fonduri pentru a dezvolta infrastructura digitală. Finlanda are taxe minime pe zona de energie și acordă conexiunea rețelei de energie electrică pentru centrele de date. Spania discută la nivel de stat direct cu hyperscalerii și operatorii mari pentru a-i atrage în țară. Sunt lucruri pe care România nu le face și de la care România are foarte multe de învățat, pentru că aceștia ar fi competitorii direct ai noștri pe partea de investiții în centre de date. Okay. Nu mai merge pointerul. Ok. Noi am identificat și câteva poziții la nivel național care ar putea să atragă și să devină un pol pentru aceste centre de date. Sunt poziții care au acces la putere foarte mare electrică și o putere stabilă. De la parcurile regenerabile din jurul Bucureștiului, cum este Ogrăjeniul, sau la SMR-urile de la Doicești, dar și centralele mari producătoare de energie, Mintia, Iernut, sperăm, Timișoara, Arad, Craiova, Cluj, Câmpia Turzii. În aceste zone vom avea putere disponibilă foarte mare și vom putea atrage sau vom putea dezvolta astfel de parcuri. Vă mulțumesc frumos! Noi, la tema Energy, suntem gata să construim această infrastructură. Vă invităm și în particular să discutăm despre lucrurile acestea și despre cum putem transforma România împreună într-un hub tehnologic regional și ce trebuie făcut. Și colegii mei sunt în continuare și la stand dacă aveți întrebări despre tema Energy și cum vă putem ajuta într-un fel cu mare drag. Vă mulțumesc!
Bună ziua! Numele meu este Dragoș Barbu și sunt coordonatorul tehnic al proiectului ROI Factory. Astăzi voi prezenta pe scurt modul în care conceptul de AI Factory ajută la dezvoltarea noilor infrastructuri digitale europene și cum România se poziționează în acest ecosistem european de inteligență artificială. Progresul României și al nostru ca institut s-a construit treptat în zona de inteligență artificială și HPC prin mai multe inițiative europene. Inițial a fost proiectul EuroCC, în care a fost partea de conștientizare și de utilizare a tehnologiilor de HPC. Prin proiectul EuroCC 2 s-a pus bazele unui nivel de conștientizare și de utilizare avansată a acestor tehnologii HPC, dar și pe sprijinirea SMI-urilor în România. Prin participarea noastră la BSCA Factory se oferă organizațiilor din România oportunitatea de a colabora cu partenerii europeni și de a dezvolta aplicații în domeniul de inteligență artificială. Următorul pas fiind ROI Factory, în care ne dorim să creăm un hub de inovare național în zona de AI. Pe acest domeniu, la nivel european, coordonarea este făcută de către EuroHPC Joint Undertaking, care este un parteneriat strategic între Comisia Europeană, statele membre, dar și industrie. Ei au misiunea de a dezvolta această infrastructură de calcul avansat și de a oferi acces pe aceste infrastructuri dezvoltărilor de aplicații atât de inteligență artificială cât și de HPC. Ca și ecosistem la nivelul Uniunii Europene există o rețea de supercomputere distribuite în mai multe state membre. Acestea au niveluri diferite de performanță în zona de petascale, pre-exascale, dar și exascale-urile, cum sunt cele din Franța și din Germania. Și peste acestea apare și acest concept de AI Factory, în care se integrează infrastructura cu date, cu software, dar și cu competențe. Ce este de fapt un AI Factory? Este un ecosistem de inovare în jurul acestor supercomputere optimizate pentru AI. Scopul lor în principal este de a avea un mediu în care modelele și aplicațiile de AI complexe să fie dezvoltate într-un mod eficient. Așadar, avem atât partea de infrastructură, peste care vine partea de date și soluții software, dar și partea de competențe și de programe de formare și dezvoltare a acestora. Ca și componente, v-am zis, se încearcă prin acest AI Factory să avem un one-stop shop pentru inovarea în zona de AI Factory și în cadrul României încercăm să construim aceste competențe și să conectăm universitățile, centrele de cercetare, dar și startup-urile și industria la această infrastructură europeană de inteligență artificială. Ca și, să zicem, sectoare industriale care sunt targetate în principal, este partea de inginerie, partea de manufactură, pentru partea de predictive analysis, cyber security, life science, bioinformatics, dar și zona de gaming. De asemenea, am targetat și zona de servicii publice digitale, dar și partea de e-guvernare. De asemenea, avem, după cum vedeți, și partea de autonomous driving și edge system. Ca și servicii pe care le folosim și le vom oferi pe aceste infrastructuri de AI Factory, este partea de acces la resursele de infrastructură, peste care vine partea de suport pentru dezvoltarea de modele de AI, cât și partea de dezvoltare de competențe și traininguri, dar în același timp și partea de trustworthy AI, în care avem partea de compliance cu directivele europene pe acest domeniu. Așadar, ca și impact în zona de industrie, se va reduce barierele de acces la aceste infrastructuri de AI, se va merge pe partea de dezvoltare și de formare a competențelor de specialiști. De asemenea, vom avea și partea de a accelera transformarea rezultatelor din cercetare către aplicații industriale, deci să trecem de la partea de proof of concept să ajungem la partea de implementare. Ca și concluzie, ar trebui să avem prin această inițiativă în România o tehnologie AI în care să fie atât scalabilă, de încredere, dar și să aibă un impact economic și social real. Vă mulțumesc!
Doamnelor, domnilor, în cadrul următorului panel discutăm despre inovație și transformare digitală. Discuția va fi moderată de Cristian David, coordonator Centrul de Competență Societatea 6.0 ICI București. Domnule ministru, scena va aparține?
Vă mulțumesc foarte mult, distinguished guests. It is my honor and privilege to start this discussion by inviting the distinguished panelists on the floor to accompany me. And I start with inviting Mr. Rio Taniguchi, Economic Advisor at the Embassy of Japan in Romania. I have seen... Please join us on the stage. Then I want to invite the distinguished Professor Mihnea Constoiu, Rector of the National University of Science and Technology, Politehnica Bucharest. Thank you so much. I want to invite the distinguished Professor Arnold Barichela, Associate Research Fellow, Cybersecurity, Digital Technologies and Artificial Intelligence at Jacques Delors Institute. Thank you so much for being with us. My pleasure to invite Professor Zlagotor Minchev, Associate Professor, Institute of ICT, Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. Please join us. We have with us the distinguished researcher Amirun Hakim bin Eden Hussaini, which is a researcher at the University of the Bundeswehr in Munich. We have together with us the distinguished former minister Florin Spătaru, which is now carrying the function of Chief Executive Officer at the Group Feroviar Român, Grampet Group. Thank you so much for being with us. And last but not least is David Song Pehamberger, Deputy Director of Strategy and Defense at the European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats, which will join us now on the stage. Thank you so much, dear gentlemen, for accepting this challenge. We have a very interesting panel today. For one issue which is integrated in the topic of the Digital Innovation Summit, which is viewing the future. The design of the future society relies very much on technology and the way technology is bridging between economic problems and mitigating social issues. This concept actually have been launched in Japan. I think the Prime Minister Abe was launching the working group on research about the future society 5.0 more than 10 years ago, and we will dive into our discussion by taking the concept from its very beginning, from Japan. Therefore, I want to raise the question to Rio Taniguchi about how the concept of Society 5.0, well known as originated from Japan, has made the societal changes expected, and what is now the outcome, and how do you appreciate the performance and the evolution of the concept from the time when you have put this at a very high level, at the government level. It's a government decision of Japan to explore and research in a very serious and rigorous manner this issue. So we start from beginning chronologically with the Japanese experience shared with us here by Ryo Taniguchi.
Thank you very much. My name is Ryo Taniguchi. I'm working for the Embassy of Japan, and I'd like to thank Christy for this opportunity for me to explain Japanese policy, Society 5.0. So I'd like to, in order to answer the question Christy told, I'd like to explain what Society 5.0 is. Society 5.0 is proposed by Japanese government in the 5th Science and Technology Basic Plan in 2016. As a future society that Japan should aspire to, it is a human-centered society that balances economic advancement with a resolution of social problems by system that highly integrate cyberspace and physical space. The main goal of Society 5.0 is to create a human-centered society. In this society, technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data, robotics, and IoT work together to support people to improve their quality of lives. These technologies help analyze large amounts of data and provide solutions to various social challenges. Society 5.0 is expected to bring many benefits. For instance, it can improve healthcare by using data and AI to provide better medical services and early disease detection. It can make transportation safer and more convenient through technologies such as autonomous vehicles. It can increase productivity in industries and help address problems such as labor shortages and aging societies. Moreover, Society 5.0 aims to reduce economic and regional gaps. By using digital technology, people in rural areas can also have better access to high-quality services, education, and medical care. This can lead to a more inclusive and balanced society. Society 5.0 represents a vision of the future where technology and humans work together. By focusing on human well-being and solving social issues, it aims to create a more sustainable, efficient, and comfortable society for everyone. That's how Japan is now challenging. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this introduction. I think we can now dive into the subject. I think what we can recall from this first intervention is that Society 5.0 is a human-centered society. And now we are looking to see in Europe how we can move from Society 5.0 to Society 6.0. Society 6.0 is described by the researchers as a society of where human civilization and advanced technologies are merged very deeply. And this new society designed by researchers has a very significant education and research dimension. Therefore, it is my privilege to ask two distinguished panelists, Professor Costoiu and Professor Hussaini, the next question to provoke a little bit the discussion. And that the question goes like this. Society 6.0 describes a future civilizations where human intelligence and advanced technologies are deeply merged.
Debate, it's not only about the capacity of the schools and the capacity of the professors. And the professors know everybody, prepare the society and explain the importance. But now it's important to stay with companies, with society in university and transform the university with the entire society. First. Second, in the same time, we have the role, in my opinion, the social responsibility to prepare the society for the new challenge, for the new technology. It's an AI work for us. I speak by AI, but AI work for us. I speak about AI, but here to the commercial and service society, it's necessary to prepare all society for this next phase, for use the technology, not only of the ethic use of the technology. It's very, very important. And can we speak about the ethics? I insist about this level, because what's happened now, we have war in a lot of places of the world, and in a lot of places of the world generally speaking, we use the technology, and we don't use
of ethical rules, or if we prepare the population and the citizens to advance and
change is transformed in such a way that you are going to take the right attractiveness for the, let's say, for the sectors. The link they made with IMEC cannot live without having our third hand, the smartphones. We cannot live without for all the economies. For sure we're going to change. For sure we will see that there will be some sectors which will die, and new roles and new industries are going to be developed. And in that sense, the link between public sectors, research, universities, and the economy is the critical factor for success.
Competitiveness and growth. We are witnessing the limitations, the energy grid, one being economic and the second one being the labor market. I will turn to Mr. Barikela. Looking to the angle of how we can mitigate the potential labor market disruptions, which derives from the fact that digitalization is replacing more and more jobs, and we are hearing so many worries in the public space by different social categories expressing.
In innovators, we will see in a number of different sectors a paradigm whereby those people who use AI are gradually going to replace those who don't know how to use it or who refuse to AI. Also, it's essential for governments to be able to boost and to train the younger generation on how to better use AI tools and technologies, because as I've told you, it will be junior level positions which are going to be the most impacted by the AI transition. So it's definitely a key topic of discussion. And so the idea is to use AI to augment workers instead of completely replacing them. And in order to ensure this type of transition, governmental regulation is essential. So there's the AI Act at the level of the European Union, and also countries around the world have their own laws at the national level. But really, governments have an essential role to play in order to ensure a smooth transition in this new AI age, where AI has become an essential tool in the labor market. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your very focused intervention, and also for underlining that there will be some advanced workers which will make the most profit of using AI, and also the ones which we unfortunately may consider being left behind should rely on education. Therefore, either if we speak about economy, even if we speak about labor market, education plays the crucial role. Now we spoke about these two elements, and I would like to open a little bit the space of our discussion to the whole society. It is not only about economical or administrative sectors, it is also about us as individuals, as citizens. And we hear more and more voices expressing concerns about the intrusion of AI in our private life, but not only in what respects our intimacy or privacy, but also we hear voices expressing worries about the AI intrusion in democratic processes, and we are facing some discussions about electoral results which are somehow manipulated or induced different results through AI mechanisms. Or we are seeing discussions about AI tools in litigious conflicts, even leading to war. So now the question to the two panelists, Professor Minchev and Pehamberger, is how we can be sure that the enhancement of AI ethics will be enough to guarantee our privacy and our security in general as a society and as an individual. So I would love to hear first Professor Minchev.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. Second year, we are here already co-organizers. So, back to your question. The problem is about the transhumanization first. We are already entering the digital reality more and more. For the moment with this, with smart glasses, but in the future we get implants, and this augments our capability, but also opens the question about security. How secure is this new reality? Innovations are very amusing, but not quite secure because they are not tested, especially when it comes to involving and embedding in our bodies. As for the infrastructure, it's the same situation. It gets smart, very convenient, but also dangerous in a way. So it should be in a way tailored, and the only solution that you can do here is to use another artificial intelligence solutions to handle the very fast dynamics. One more thing that I want to note here is about the philosophical moment about what actually AI creates is a fake reality or an extended one that is more amusing, and this is a problem about our mentality, because if you go back to Baudrillard's ideas, I speak about Jean Baudrillard, he predicted that the future will be not mimicking a real object as a model, but completely imaginary. And this we have seen in the Matrix movie. Nowadays we are living. I was in the rest in the corridor, met two robots, and start to interact with them. And this is the future, so the question is not about the securing of protocols, the technologies, but also securing our mentality. And this will be the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, also for your kind introduction earlier on. Maybe first let me take a quick step back just to explain what we do at the Hybrid C with regard